Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Creator Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, powerful does not always equal expensive. In fact, there are a lot of really powerful, even overpowered commanders that are budget friendly themselves, less than $1 themselves, and you can build incredibly powerful budget friendly decks around them. With that said, let's jump into my picks for some overpowered commanders that you can build on a budget. And first up, I kind of want to show off this one first, Tes of Carlo. I will say that these are not in any particular order, but I did want to show off this one first because alternative art versions are a good way to find cheaper versions sometimes of a commander. Like Tes of Carlo would not have made this list had this version, the side profile for whatever versions, seem to be less expensive than other versions. So yeah, it even made this list because of that. So make sure you're keeping that in mind. If you're a budget player like myself, you don't really care what version you're getting of a card because they all do the same thing. So there you go. Anyways, a 2/4 Human Advisor for 4 mana in Orzhov. If a creature causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that trigger triggers additional time. Creature tokens you control have vigilance and lifelink. So basically, doubling up death triggers. Essentially, like Death Harmonicon is what this is. Panharmonicon, but for death. This is kind of the first commander, at least that I remember, that kind of made it popular for wizards to start doing oh, trigger, double it, trigger, double it. We're starting to get more and more commanders like this for different kinds of triggers. That being said, the OG is incredibly powerful. There are a lot of very powerful death triggers out there. I mean, basically the entire baseline of an aristocrat style deck. But this says, oh, let's just do that twice. We double all of that up. So this can lead to some absurd turns. On top of it, because it needed extra text, right? Creature tokens you control vigilance lifelink. That's also just nice. Like a little cherry on top of the sundae. Is that a saying? I don't know. Anyways, there's a lot of very budget-friendly cards that can work really well with this. I mean, just like Mirkwood Bats. We can talk about, Blood Artist, those kinds of cards. Blood Artist is a little outside of my budget. I think Zulaport Cutthroat is now too, but there are still a ton of cards out there that say, hey, when something dies, drain your opponents. That being said, this one specifically says, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. So essentially, yeah, even if you're making tokens, great, you drain. If you're sacrificing tokens, you drain, but you're draining twice as much with Tesa. So now it's 1 token equals 3 life loss for your opponents. Smothering Abomination. Another great way to take advantage of this commander. Devoid, flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice creature. Whenever you sacrifice creature, draw a card. The aristocrat style commander like this one, you don't really care that you're sacrificing creatures. That's actually a good thing. So sacrifice those creatures, and instead of drawing just 1 card, draw 2 cards instead. So yeah, whether you're sacrificing tokens or non-tokens, does not matter. Drain your opponents with Mirkwood Bats, draw in your deck with this, and replace those tokens with Requiem Angel. Replace anything with the Requiem Angel, essentially. Whenever another non-spirit creature control dies, you make a 1/1 spirit with flying on the battlefield. You're getting 2 instead of 1. So essentially, no matter what you have on the battlefield, as long as it's not a spirit, you sacrifice to get all that other value, and now you get 2 spirits, which of course you're going to sacrifice for even more value with other things too. So yeah, at the end of the day, Tes of Carlo, an oldie but a goodie. It's not that old, I guess, but old compared to some other commanders these days. But the kind of original, doubling up commander, this is a very good one. Again, very budget-friendly itself. This alternative art version, less than $1 as well, and a lot of great budget-friendly cards to work with this one. Next up, and again, I didn't really put these in any particular order, but I guess I kind of did for the first couple where, to prove a point, hey, look, uncommon commanders. Just because it has an uncommon, symbol on it, does not mean it's a bad card. Tiova is proof of that, of course. Tiova, has mythic level power, basically. A 3/3 Merfolk Druid for 5 mana in Simic. Landfall, whenever a land is battlefield under control, you gain 1 life, draw a card. My goodness, is that powerful. That is a crazy effect. Definitely nowhere near common level, or uncommon level, I should say, but yeah, this is a crazy powerful effect, and it doesn't even matter what the symbol is, right? Just ignore that. Ignore all of that and just focus on the crazy amount of value you get with this. What's powerful in Commander already? Ramping, getting lands into play. Oh, okay, cool. This Commander rewards you for doing that in a big way. Sure, the gain 1 life isn't really all that impactful, but the drawing of a card, yeah, every single time you play a land, crazy. Not even just play lands, obviously, but hey, Evolving Wilds, you play this, You tap, you sacrifice, you go get another land. You just drew 2 cards for playing a single land. My goodness, the value you can have from that. Harrow, you know, another great ramp spell here. Sacrifice 1 land, go get 2 basics into play untapped, and then shuffle. And also, by the way, with Tiova, gain 2 life, draw 2. Of course, there's a lot of other great landfall triggers out there, especially budget ones too. Rampaging, Balos, Trample for a 6/6er. And then, whenever a land is battlefield to control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Yeah, all of a sudden, you just get Tiova in play, you get some lands out there, you ramp, and you've got a massive army of Balos that are just taking over the game. And this is a commander that, again, can make it so that you have, well, an absurd amount of cards to pick from, an absurd amount of life. You are padding your life total. You are just like, oh, wow, sheesh, I got to discard down from 12. Wait, no, I guess I'll just play my, some hand-sized card, and I'm fine. So I'll just, keep my giant hand of 12, which next turn will be 20 cards, which next turn you're going to be able to do some crazy powerful things with a commander like this. Absurd value, even on budget. Tiova, Benthic Druid. Moving on, one that I think it's pretty slept on, Vadric, Astral Archmage. My goodness, is this overpowered. A 1/2 human wizard for 3 mana, and is it? If it's either night or day, it becomes day as it enters the battlefield. Let's skip the next part. We'll just read the last part because it has to do with that. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you get a counter on it. I think a lot of players skip this because they're like, like day and night cycles, that's not very powerful. I'm like, that's going to take a while to get counters on it. It says instant source spells you cast cost X less cast for X is Vadric's power. That's the only part of this that matters. If it literally didn't have any of their text on it, it might see more play, even though it would be worse. Because, yeah, you can just get, like, free extra counters on this. That being said, the focus is entirely, I don't have to depend on that. I just need to focus on just getting more and more power onto this commander, and all of a sudden, my spells cost absurdly cheap. This is a low-to-ground commander that can reduce the cost of your spells by an absurd amount, and reducing cost of spells is absurdly powerful and very broken in many circumstances. Lunar Frenzy, let's just talk about this card. Instant for X and a red. Target creature control gets +X/+0 against first strike and trample until end of turn. This basically is, hey, you want to pay a single red mana to double up your commander's power? Yeah, that's crazy good. I mean, obviously you can dump mana into that X as well. There's other cards that double up power too, but you add a lot of those in the deck, all of a sudden you go from, let's say, like 5 power to 10 power to 20 power, and it costs you nearly nothing to do so. I mean, Blackblade Forge, a card that's usually very good in, Voltron strategies. You don't need Voltron for this commander, although you could take out your opponents with a Voltron if you wanted to. +1 for each land you control. Yeah, you're not in a ramp-based strategy when it comes to lands. You're not in green. That being said, even if this is just, again, like 5 lands in play, +5/+5 is a huge amount to add to your commander, and again, really sets you up to double and then double and then double again. And then, of course, just cast on like Stroke of Genius to do absurd things. Instant for X2 and a blue, but you just basically are playing a blue with this. Target player draws X cards. Again, at a certain point, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I paid a single blue mana to draw 20 cards. Eat your heart out, Ancestral Recall. Then you draw into more cards that maybe, maybe some ritual effects, maybe some untap effects, maybe some more, double up power effects. And then all of a sudden you draw your entire deck. And then you just deal, not infinite damage, but let's say like 80 damage to each of your opponents with a giant burn spell. You can do a lot of crazy things with this kind of a commander in absolutely no time. Again, yeah, and you just get like extra benefits with that counter on it that comes every now and then, but you don't have to worry about that day-night. You don't have to play with that or around it. You don't have to care about that at all. And I do think that when commanders have like extra text on that, players like, oh, I don't like day-night. I don't think it's very good. They tend to skip past the commander, kind of like Tiova, when it's like, oh, it's uncommon. It must not be very good. Don't judge a book by its cover. And the cover of this book, well, kind of hides the secret that this is a very powerful, overpowered commander. Next up, Elsha of the Infinite, and that is a very apt name for this one because Infinite, you can do some crazy things. A 3/3 Jin Monk for 5 mana in Jeskai Prowess. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast on creature spells from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, you may cast it on a flash. Okay, so 2 very powerful things. I already talked about earlier, like, cost reduction. That's very powerful. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But another very powerful thing is being able to play off the top of your library because players might underestimate just how powerful that can be, right? It's like, oh, I get 1 extra card. No. It's not just 1 extra card, okay? It's the potential for so much more. It's basically a second hand that can just keep growing because throughout the turn, you play a card on the top. Oh, it reveals another card that I can play off the top. As long as it's a non-creature spell, you can do that. Do that again and again and again. And also, your commander's kind of like a Vidalcan Ori, too, because now all your non-creature spells have flash. You can play at instant speed right before your turn. Again, like that's a very good way to play if you can. Just, hey, okay, you will take your turns. You know, I've got mana up ready to go, and I can respond to what you do. Or also, yeah, it's going to be harder for you to stop me from doing what I'm doing because I just can go right before my turn starts and then utilize my resources. You try to stop me then, I can do things next turn anyways. There's a lot of powerful things that you can do, and when it comes to commanders that work around like non-creature spells, typically one of the most powerful things you can do is really focus on artifacts because that is probably the easiest broken one. Ghoul Caller's Bell, this is a card that is amazing with this commander. This is an artifact for one, a very simple artifact. Tap, each player mills one. By being able to actually manipulate the top of your library, you can extend your turn further. You can give yourself more basically card advantage in a turn. Again, you might hit a land off the top of your library with your commander like, oh, okay, I can't play that because it's not a creature spell. Oh, wait, let's just mill. All of a sudden, oh, I hit another one. It's kind of like a draw effect in a way because it can give you access to more and more cards. So there's a lot of artifacts out there, kind of like this one where you can just remove the top card of your library from the equation and say, you know what, let's get to something else. You can also utilize cards like Foundry Inspector. Hey, reduce the cost of your artifacts. Artifact spells you cast cost once to cast. You can do some crazy powerful things with that. And of course, you can have other triggers that like, hey, when you cast an artifact, you do this. Cast on a creature spell, you get this. A lot of benefits can be had. And of course, Rebuild lets you do that again and again and again. Return all artifacts on his hands. Bounce all those artifacts back to your hands, cast them all for even more value, storm off, do some absolutely crazy things. Yeah, Elsha of the Infinite, again, very, very apt name for this kind of a commander. You can do some absolutely crazy things. Again, basically like Vidalcan Ori meets top of the library shenanigans, card advantage value. And I didn't even mention the prowess, right? Again, being able to just get a lot of power in this commander, you can easily turn this commander into a 2-shot, maybe even a 1-shot KO with a double strike type effect. Elsha of the Infinite, a very cool, very powerful commander. Somewhat along the same vein, we've got Karwinds Fury, but we can actually build this in some different directions too. Though, yes, you can just build Artifact Storm as well if you want to build in that, overpowered way. Though, probably ask your playgroup first when it comes to that. A 3/3 Bird Wizard with Flying that costs 4 mana and Jeskai. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature with Flying. Sacrifice a spirit, add red. Another powerful thing is, well, a ritual effect as a commander, and this is basically that. Every single time you cast a non-creature spell, you can basically just add a single red mana if you really want to. It's just a ritual effect commander. Or you can decide to just like, oh, okay, cool, I'll just go wide, make an army, and an evasive army at that. Again, flying might not get you through on all opponents, but it'll get you through most of the time, at least on one, maybe on a couple. And when it comes to flying blockers, players typically don't have that many, even if they do have one. So being able to get through by going wide and be like, oh, okay, cool, I've got an army that I can sacrifice for mana if I need it. Or I can just go through and just demolish you, have fun, or just demolish them ahead of time with like Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature control has battlefield under control, one damage each opponent. Every single time you cast a non-creature spell, you are pinging each opponent 1 every single time, on top of all the other value getting out of that spell, and on top of, well, having a permanent creature in play. Shared Animosity, again, enchantment. Again, all these enchantments are going to help you, actually, when it comes to actually making them, too. Enchantment for 3 mana. Whenever a creature control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end turn for each other attacking creature shares that creature type with it. A massive Anthem effect. All of a sudden, you swing with, again, like, let's say 6 spirits. Now they're going to be swinging for 7 damage each. That's 42 damage in total, if I did my math correctly. You can take opponents out in no time with certain anthems like this. You can also do some weird, crazy things, too, like View from Above. An instant for 1 in a blue. Target you control against flying until end turn. If you control a white permanent, return it back to its owner's hand. View from Above. So all of a sudden, you say, oh yeah, my commander's in play, obviously. That is a white permanent. I cast this. I cast it again. I cast it again. I cast it again. I'm getting whatever triggers, including my commanders and other triggers I have. And I keep casting this as many times as I want, essentially, as long as I keep having blue mana. And I do say blue mana because typically you're probably also going to have some cost reducers with this kind of a commander as well to reduce the cost of spells against sorceries, whatever. Recasting this a lot, getting all that value, doing some absolutely crazy things. Yeah, a commander like this one can be built in a lot of different directions, and all of them are very, very powerful. This is an overpowered commander, Karwinds Fury. Moving on, a Bant commander with Chainteller of Tales, a 2/4 human druid with vigilance for 5 mana in Bant. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield, pay 3, tap, return target creature control to its owner's hand. Kind of in that Tiova vein where it's like, okay, hey, let's get the lands out. Let's draw. Let's do some crazy things. and we can do that by playing creatures, which is very easy for us to do. In fact, very abusable for us to do with certain cards out there like, I don't know, this janky old card called Shrieking Drake, which was terrible back in the day, but very good now. A 1/1 flying Drake for 1 blue mana. 1 enters the battlefield, return a creature controlled back to its owner's hand. Okay, so what you can do with this one, which some players might not realize, is that you can actually bounce itself back to your hand. You can play this and say, oh, I'm going to return a creature, which is this, back to my hand, and then do it again, and again, and again. Essentially, you're paying a single blue mana to, again, draw a card, put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. It does not say tapped. So let's say you do that. You put an island into play. Cool. All right, tap my island for a blue mana, play my Shrieking Drake again. Do it again, and again, and again. This can give you an absurd amount of card advantage, an absurd amount of value, on top of all the other landfall triggers you have, on top of all the other cast triggers you have probably. Like, you could just have like a Hazoret's Monument in play too. Red creature spells you cast, cost once to cast. That's not going to help you, but who cares? What does matter is whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So even more card selection for you, on top of all that card advantage you're already getting out of Tulane, can be absolutely absurd. You can also take advantage of really janky old cards like Tangleroot, which is a terrible card in some circumstances, but for certain decks out there, for the right deck out there like this one, it can be crazy good. Whenever a player plays a creature spell, player adds green to their mana pool. You keep playing creature spells again and again and again, you're all of a sudden ritualing. You are getting so much mana in a turn. You can do some crazy things with that. Of course, there's plenty of ways to tutor for a creature like Shrieking Drake or White Mane Lion. Lots of creatures that can do that kind of stuff as well. Chainteller of Tales, whether you're just building it, for just big creatures, value, landfall, or again, some combo synergies, you can do a lot of crazy things with this overpowered commander. Next up, we've got Alayla, Artful Provocateur, a 2/3 Fairy Warlock for 4 mana in Esper, flying, Death Touch, Lifelink. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+0. Whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying. Again, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes like those different art versions or those different border versions of cards can be much more budget friendly for you. So yeah, if you're a budget player like me, keep that in mind. Just 32 cents for this crazy powerful commander. Here you go. Again, when you're casting artifacts, again, really, really powerful, or even just enchantments, very powerful as well, but yeah, both are usable and abusable. Artifacts maybe a little more so. Doesn't matter what direction really you go this way. You can go a combination of both. You're getting so much power, so much value. Every single time you do so, you get basically a 2/1 flyer. Again, evasive, effective, and some crazy value can be had. Ethereum Sculptor. A 1/2 artifact creature. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Again, reducing the cost of your artifacts can lead to some crazy effects, some crazy turns, some crazy plays, and just, good value throughout the game. But also, you could literally just do anthems. You could just do Anthem Tribal with this commander, and my goodness, the punch that you can pack with your team of fairies is crazy. Intangible Virtue, enchantment for 1 and a white. Creature tokens you control get +1 in vigilance. All of a sudden, again, you're playing this, you get a fairy. Every single time you're playing enchantments, you get fairies. So you're just getting value out of that already. But now all of a sudden, all your fairies, again, are getting an extra +1/+1 in vigilance. I should say fairy tokens. Your commander is a fairy too. So you know what I mean. Being able to pump your fairy army is absurd. So all of a sudden now, every single time you get that trigger from your commander, you are making a 3/2 flyer, which of course you can just keep adding to again and again and again. Some bigger Anthem effects are out there as well. But yeah, Etchings of the Chosen, a great one too. Champ for 3 mana, Orzhov, enters the battlefield, features a creature type. Fairy. Creature control of the chosen type, get +1/+1. So again, a nice Anthem there. More importantly, though, pay 1, sacrifice a creature chosen type. Target creature control gains indestructible till end of turn. So essentially, yeah, sacrifice one of your fairy tokens and all of a sudden protect your commander. Again and again and again. Keep your commander in play. Go wide, go tall. Decimate your opponents with this commander that gives you so much value throughout the game. It can be a threat itself, obviously. If you get a lot of anthems out there, this commander can very easily become, a 2-shot, even a 1-shot KO. You get some double striking effects out there too. Flying Death Touch Lifelink, that's lovely. Yeah, a very cool, very powerful commander. Can be built in a lot of different overpowered ways. Okay, one that you really got to look out for, though, if you're playing against this commander. But if you're playing with this one, you can do some crazy, powerful, and fun things. Rowan, Sign of War, a 4/2 human wizard with menace for 3 mana, and Rakdos. Tap spells you cast this turn that are black and or red, cost X less to cast for X the amount of life you lost this turn. Activate sorcery. My goodness, the potential of this commander is absurd, because here's the thing. It's incredibly easy to lose life, and you've got 40 life to lose. So that's a lot of life that you can lose. I guess 39 technically if you don't want to just lose the game. So you are able to lose a lot of life. When you do, you reduce the cost of your spells so quickly your opponent's heads will spin. Yeah, a card like Mischievous Poltergeist, which I absolutely love. This kind of a janky old school card that wasn't all that good back in the day. A 1/1 flyer for 3 mana that you can regenerate by paying 1 life. Okay, cool. Like, I can keep it on the board for a good amount of time. Good for me. It's a good blocker. Cool. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, with this, you're like, okay, I regenerate it. And your opponent's like, but you didn't need to regenerate it. And I'm like, oh, no, I lost a life. I regenerate again and again and again and again. You regenerate this as many times as you want to reduce your life total down to whatever you need to reduce it to. So you lost again, say 30 life. All of a sudden, all of your red and black spells cost 30 less to cast just by tapping your commander once. So then you can utilize something like maybe Threaten. Again, you might not think you have untap effects in these color combinations, but you do. Other colors like, blue and white have a lot of untap effects, and green as well. Basically anything but your colors, but essentially Threaten effects are untap effects. Sorcery for 2 and a red, but you're only going to ever pay a red for this. Untap target creature gaining 12 until end of turn. The creature gains haste until end of turn. Again, typically these are used to gain control of an opponent's creature, but doesn't specify it has to be an opponent's creature. So you're just like, oh, okay, cool. I gain control of my commander. It gains haste. I untap it. And all of a sudden, I'm able to tap it again. Now my spells cost 60 less to cast. And of course, you can do some crazy things. You can dig down your deck. There's some big draw spells you can utilize. Or you just finish your opponents off with Cut to Ribbons. Or should I say ribbons out of your graveyard. After Master Cast from your graveyard, each opponent loses X life. Very simple, very effective. Yeah, your opponents lose 60 life. You win the game. You got plenty of ways to gain your life back if you need to before you're doing something like this. You can do a lot of crazy things with this commander. Again, this commander could take your opponents, take everyone out in absolutely no time, doing some absolutely crazy things, taking advantage of life loss. Rowan, Sign of War, definitely an overpowered commander. Next up, Rada Drabic of Urborg. This one gets more and more powerful as time goes on because we get more and more legendaries. It seems like every year we're getting an absurd amount. A 3/3 zombie wizard for 4 mana and Orzhov Vigilance, Ward 2. It did not need Ward 2. Other zombies you control have Vigilance. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token's copy of that creature, except it's not legendary. It's a 2/2 black zombie. It issues other colors and types. This is crazy. This is absurd. This is, hey, those really powerful, creatures that you build decks around, those commanders? Cool, let's just chuck many of them, chuck a lot of powerful ones of them into this deck, and all of a sudden, oh no, it got taken out, or I sacrificed it for value. Oh cool, I get an extra copy of it. But that copy's not legendary, so I can do some crazy things with that. Again, every single year we're getting a lot of legendaries to work with, and this keeps getting a lot more fuel for this very powerful deck. Bartolome de Presidio, a 2/1 Vampire Knight for 2 mana. Even this uncommon can be very good with this kind of a commander. Sacrifice other creature artifact, get a counter on this. A free sacrifice outlet is always going to be a good thing. With an aristocrat style or value-based sacrificing commander, being able to sacrifice our creatures whenever we need to get that token copy of them can be absolutely huge. Promise of Aclazants. This one we can utilize the sorcery, sacrifice an undeemed creature. If you do, you make a 4/3 vampire token with flying. Cool, yeah, cool, we can do that. Or, hey, get this down as an enchantment, or both, I guess. Beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a non-demon creature. If you do, populate. So, sacrifice your creatures that are legendary, get token copies of them, populate to get even more of them. Absurd. Being able to basically go wide with even just a singular legendary creature that has a very powerful effect and get it. You shouldn't be able to get it more than once. You shouldn't be able to get more than one of them. But again, you break that legend rule, this commander, which is huge. Speaking of breaking things, you can break things with Teshar, Ancestors of Possible, flying, 2/2. Whenever casts a historic spell, which counts legendaries, return to our creature card with mana value 3 less, you're given to the battlefield. Yeah, you can rinse and repeat, recycle your legendary creatures, sacrifice them, get them back out into play, get multiple copies of this, do crazy things. This is just kind of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this kind of a commander. Again, this one gets more and more powerful the more and more years goes on because we are getting more and more commanders throughout the years. A crazy overpowered commander that definitely did not need Ward 2, Rada Drabic of Urborg. Next up, Marneus Calgar. Oh my goodness. A 3/5 double striking Astartes Warrior for 5 mana in Esper. Whenever one of our tokens enters the battlefield under control, draw a card. Chapter Masterpiece 6, create 2/2 tokens with Vigilance. So essentially, we are going to be drawing an absurd amount of cards with this. Again, there is a limitation on this technically. Again, whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield. So again, even when we make 20 tokens at once, we're only getting 1 card drawn. But it doesn't say like only once each turn. So yeah, because of that, or just on your turn. Because of that, we can take advantage of this by just having a lot of different instances of token production. And again, it doesn't specify creature token or non-creature token. It's any kind of a token. So have a lot of different ways to make a lot of different tokens, take advantage of this, and all of a sudden draw probably your entire deck at a certain point. There's also some combos that can work at higher budgets as well with that activate ability, so that's got that as well. That being said, on a budget, 12 cents into your Kraken is so good with this commander. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do get a counter onto your Kraken, create a 1/1 blue tentacle token. So all of a sudden you draw a card. Cool, I'll pay 1. I'll make a token. Oh, okay, I'm going to draw a card for my commander. Okay, cool, I'll pay 1. I'll make a token. You basically can just keep paying 1 mana to draw and make a token again, as long as you have mana to do so. And this also becomes massive as well. Also take advantage of, again, you're just creatures dying naturally. Eloise, Nefalious Sleuth, or not naturally. Whenever another creature control dies, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a token, surveil 1. Take advantage of both ends of this essentially. Just, make a lot of tokens. Doesn't matter if they're clues, you're drawing cards thanks to your commander, but also sacrifice those clues, surveil 1, take extra advantage of all of that. Ogre, Slumlord, take advantage of your opponent's creatures too. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black creature token. Ratchet control of Death Touch. So yes, even if our opponent's creatures die, even if our creatures die, we're making an absurd amount of creature tokens and drawing an absurd amount of cards throughout the game. Yeah, Marneus Calgar, a crazy powerful commander with a crazy powerful combo potential at higher levels, but still, even on a budget, you don't have to go crazy combo to win with this commander. Obviously, the amount of value you can get is absurd, is insane. Marneus Calgar, definitely an overpowered commander. Moving on, Atla Palani Nest. Yeah, this one can be built in a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you a pretty weird way that can still be very powerful, though. A 2/3 even Shaman for 4 mana in Naya. Pay 2, tap, create a 0/1 egg creature token. With Defender, whenever an egg you control dies, reveal cards off the top of your library into a big creature card. Put that card right on the battlefield, the rest of your library in random order. Now, you can literally just chuck in a bunch of powerful creatures into a deck around this commander, and it's going to work out pretty well for the most part. This is a commander that says, okay, I make these tiny little eggs. When they get dealt with, either by you or by me, because I'm going to sacrifice them in certain ways, I get powerful creatures off the top of my library, basically for free. So what we can do is maybe build around some weird things like, oh, I don't know, Sarah Avatar. Power tubs each is equal to our life total. Put a grave from anywhere, shuffle into its library. Owner's library. So basically with this, yeah, you always can reveal this off the top if you sacrifice some eggs. So essentially, you might just build a deck where you have maybe just this in it, and all of a sudden you have, okay, if Avatar came out, oh, it's a 40/40. Awesome. That's great. Cool. Or even if it's like a 20/20. Whatever it is, again, if your life total is lower, there's still some ways to take advantage of that and say, oh, I don't know, maybe let's just take my opponents out quite quickly. First, maybe I'll Sheltering Word it. Just, I want to protect it, okay? Target creature control gains hex per 12 turn. You gain life for life creature toughness. So again, even if you're less than, let's say, an opponent's life total, and that'll be very apparent as to why I'm talking about that here in a second, you can gain life pretty quickly with that, because it's basically like double up your life total for 2 mana while protecting Sarah Avatar, and then you can maybe fling your, Sarah Avatar at someone's face. Sacrifice a creature. Fling deals damage to the sacrifice creature's power to any target. So essentially, yeah, I sacrificed an egg earlier. I got Sarah Avatar out, and then I just flung it at my opponent's face, and they were taken out. And then Sarah Avatar goes back into my deck. And then I get another egg out. Maybe I populated, maybe I got multiple eggs, whatever it was. And then, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice that one to take out another opponent. You got plenty of different fling effects, plenty of different creature deals, damage equal to its power to an opponent, that kind of thing as well. There's a lot of ways you can build around this one. That's not the only way, obviously. But yeah, if you just chuck a bunch of powerful creatures into a deck, you're going to have a good time. Atla Palani Nest Center, a very powerful commander. And finally, one that I do want to point out that can also be built in a weird, unexpected way. Illuna Apex of Wish is a 6/6 Beast Elemental Dinosaur because that's thing for 5 mana in Teamer, but you can actually mutate it, which is what we're going to be doing. Flying Trample, this creature mutates, exile cards to the top of your library to exile a non-land permanent card, that card on the battlefield or in your hand. This kind of a commander, kind of like Atla Palani, you can build around one specific thing and make that incredibly powerful. And I'm kind of breaking a rule in this episode because, again, I talked about overpowered commanders on a budget, and I did make all the commanders have to be less than $1. I mean, this one's just 14 cents. And every single card I've actually shown off so far, I believe, has been less than $1. Let me know if I was wrong on that. That being said, this next card is not less than $1. but the rest of your deck can be incredibly budget friendly to make up for that. So the entire total cost of the deck can be like 20 bucks or less even, maybe 25. Omniscience. Okay, this is a $6 card, which is not that budget friendly, right? But the rest of the deck can make up for that. Enchantment for 10 mana, but you're not going to be paying that. You may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana costs. So this kind of a commander, again, you can just have one permanent card in your entire deck that is a non-land and say that's just Omniscience. So you're guaranteed to hit that. All you have to do is just have some spells that can make some, creature tokens. You mutate onto one of those creature tokens, non-human I might add, creature tokens, reveal at the top, you hit Omniscience every single time, and you can build your deck in a way that, well, once that happens, you just win, because you can cast things like Overflowing Insight for free. Target player draws 7 cards. If you have the ability to cast a draw spell for free that can basically draw your new hand, yeah, you're going to be having a good time. You just draw 7 more cards. Okay, cool, another draw spell. Okay, cool, another draw spell. Okay, cool, a way to get that back to recur Overflowing Insight. Cast it again, draw even more cards. Basically, draw your entire deck, storm off, cast every single spell in your library, and then sure, just Grape Shot. Take everyone out. 1 damage to any target storm. Other kind of storm effects as well. Again, you have recursion effects to get this back. Storm it again. Cast all the things in your entire deck. Again, this is not the typical way that, say, Illuna is built, but you can do some very powerful things, again, even on a budget. And again, make like an exception for that one card, because you can still build the rest of the deck budget as well. So yeah, Illuna Apex of Wishes, definitely, when built properly, a very powerful commander. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your picks are for some budget overpowered commanders. What kind of decks do you have that are budget and incredibly powerful? Let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in any of these cards, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. I also have deck techs on some, actually many of these, if not many of them, not all of them, but make sure you check those out as well. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.